Hi everybody, welcome to the first episode of my tech series here on my YouTube channel, and today we are going to be looking into a very interesting topic. Well, of course, my name is Mercy Kelly Mwale, aka Miss Kelly, and the topic of discussion today is how can someone know they are in an abusive relationship and how can they get out. I have a very special guest with me in the studios today, a renowned mental health advocate, a journalist, and a founder of Let It Out Mental Health Malawi. It's an NGO that she founded in 2019, and she's a very special guest today. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Phyllis Banda.
Thank you, Mercy.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm very fine. So my very first question for you today is, what is an abusive relationship?
Well, an abusive relationship is quite the most of a topic that many people we don't get to talk about, because the fact remains that it's so much hurtful that even if you do go out to the public and you talk to somebody about it, you either get ashamed or they don't believe you. So as a nutshell, I would actually put it to say that as an abusive relationship, it is a relationship where you actually don't know how vulnerable you are with the person until it actually happens. That's when everything bursts and actually happens, that's when you realize that, oh, I'm in actually an abusive relationship. It comes from the word itself, abuse. You are abusing something that you're not supposed to abuse, something that you thought probably shouldn't have been there in the first place, or something that after day by day you start taking advantage of it, and now it becomes a factor of you where you start taking abuse, even taking abuse of power. So by the end of the day, let's take that fact of abuse of power into the relationship scale, where you are now taking advantage. You are now considering that person a vulnerable person, and by the end of the day, you are abusing that other partner of yours.
Okay, from what you've just explained, since it's that notion where we normally cannot know unless there's an evidence of something, like right now in our society. So like, what can be the indicators of me being in an abusive relationship before those big indicators, being beaten or something?
Okay, quite the most. I would say that the biggest indicator of them all is when a person doesn't notice the red flags. It starts from a very small thing and then it starts to get bigger. It usually starts from such things as him or her saying abusive words, or him just making small gestures to you, like just a tap on the back when you've done something wrong, or just anger itself. So those tiny things actually build up to a factor of where it actually collapses and bursts. Let's take it back from your question. You said, how do you actually notice, or what are the key indicators? The first thing is the fact that these small things, you need to take them into account. I know even the Bible talks about you not taking account of certain things. For instance, if I have to forgive you, that means I have to not take account of what you did yesterday, or what you did last week, or what you did last month. But in an abusive relationship, these things start out very small. By the end of the day, those things build up, and eventually one day that person will burst. The first thing is taking note of the small things that are happening in that relationship. How does he react to certain things? For instance, money issues. And when he's broke or when she's broke, how do they react? Are they angry? Do they burst? When they're under pressure, how do they react? In sadness, how do they react? If they have gone through certain stuff that you probably can't mention, how do they react? So it's the reaction that actually comes after something happens. That's the time when you actually get to notice, does this person, do they know how to control themselves? Because if they're able to do that to other people, eventually they will do that to you. And they will find no room at all. And they will do it to you. Because, hey, you are vulnerable, you're with them. So they know that you cannot leave. So that's the factor that, one, you need to take note of the little things that happen. How do they react in these little emotions that are happening around them? In other words, let's put it out there, and I do quote, it's red flags. That red flag saying is actually true. Because by the end of the day, those are the flags that you need to take note. Take note, write them down somewhere. Okay, today this happened. Okay, this person acted like this. And there's a saying that we all go by, youth apparently, we all go by to say, let it slide. Honestly, that's a lie. Because by the end of the day, even if you do let it slide, again, I did say these things build up. Eventually that person does burst. So the key factor remains, notice the things that he does or she does. Notice the things that other person reacts when something happens. Because by the end of the day, that reaction is going to be carried out to you in a relationship or in marriage. So those are the key factors that indicate that. Write it down and talk to that person. Do they forgive? Do they allow room for compromise? Do they allow room for forgiveness? Are they able to say, okay, I've done wrong. I believe I can change. Okay, this was wrong. How do I do it better? Those are the factors that you need to take note. But if they're able to go like, no, it wasn't my fault. Why are you screaming?
Okay, so you just went to my other question. People change. Like you're in a marriage, you're in a relationship, maybe the early days of a relationship, and then like you've said, like you've noticed some things, maybe anger issues and stuff in your partner, and then you as a Christian, like I'm a Christian, and then you go like, oh, maybe people change, he's asked for forgiveness, he's done this, and then do you really have to take that into account, like, oh my goodness, we need to forgive, and at the end of the day people change? Do people really change?
Well, honestly, God can change a person. God is the only person who can change somebody. A person changes if they want to change. I think that should answer your question.
Yeah.
If a person sees again that they have done wrong, and again, if there's room for them to compromise, if there's room for them to probably do things better, that's the only time they can change. But in that time, in that moment, if they do not want to change, if they don't want to sit down and actually understand where they've gone wrong or how best they can actually do things better, that is the time you notice that they cannot change. Pray for them if you have to. But the more you keep forgiving an abusive person, the more one day things will actually burst. Eventually, you hear, she died. For instance, if you do remember, about a year or two ago, there was this woman from Nigeria, she's a singer.
Yeah.
We all didn't know that.
I had a question for you on that.
We all didn't know that despite all that she was singing, by the end of the day, she would still go home, cry, and get into an abusive husband. We all didn't know that. But by the end of the day, she still hid from the fact, they say, okay, God, please change this person. Okay, God, please change this person. But by the end of the day, God can do his part. But a person changes if they want to change. Or come do I'm a sinner if they want to change. But if they do not want to change, especially for a particular person, the rest is history. And then you keep forgiving, you keep forgetting, okay, he's gonna change, okay, he's gonna change. Do take note, that is only your relationship stage. So what happens when you're married? You can't walk away. Because by the end of the day, women, okay, they're divorced, that image still does not look fine in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So when you're married now, despite all the slaps, despite everything is gonna do to you, you are just going to sit there and say, because I'm married, okay, I'm going to stick around. Okay, Lord, continue changing him. I believe one day I'm going to come and he's going to be the nicest guy. He is not. If he can't do it now, if he can't change it now, if he can't make a factor of considering himself to be bad and one way or another he wants to change it, it can never change. It starts from him today. If you can't do it today, trust me, sister, give it 10 years, 3 years down the line, you will die and we'll go to your funeral with pride.
Welcome once again, those that are joining us. It's the first episode of my tech series, and I'm your host, Messi Mwale, aka Miss Kelly, and I'm joined in the studios today by Miss Phyllis Banda, a journalist, a mental health advocate, and we are discussing how can someone know they're in an abusive relationship and how can they get out. My next question to you. How can we differentiate emotional and physical abuse?
Okay, emotional abuse is how he talks to you, how she talks to you. If they are talking to you in a very rude tone, again, let's keep it on the fact of the tone that person talks to you. Do you feel bad? Do they call you names and this, after something happens? How best do they bring out the emotions that they're going through? But at the end of the day, we're all human. So it is the emotion that we all take out to another person that defines us. It's the emotion that we bring out. How I talk to you, how the tone I talk to you would differentiate to say, am I talking to this person because I love them? Or am I talking to this person because by the end of the day, I just want them to feel bad for themselves? So that's a factor. It's the tone, it's the way, it's how they call you out in public. Do they call you baby? Or hey, mercy? Like, okay, what happened?
Where's closed doors?
Where's the love? Babe. Where's the love? Inside or outside, where is the love? And the physical factor is him or her laying their hand on you. That's all. That's how you define physical. Because by the end of the day, whatever issue, I did say, what kind of gesture they do to you, it will multiply one day. It will multiply. And then eventually that thing will actually be so huge enough. So the emotional factor is the tone. It's what names they call you. It's how they speak to you. It's how they do certain things. It's how they say or whatever way they would want to address any issue with you. That's the emotional abuse part. The physical part is them laying their hand on you. Any sort of gesture that you know it's not right. You're not okay with it. Even if you do speak to them and tell them that, I don't like this. I don't like how you touch me here. I don't like how you put your hand on me here. If they can't accept that or love you the way you are, because by the end of the day, we're all not hyper. I would love my man to do stuff on me, but then a girl wouldn't like that. So it's the gestures, it's the fact that how you present yourself to your man. If he's not okay with that and is going the other way about it, then that's abuse.
All right. So what do you think is the longest consequence of someone being in an abusive relationship?
The longest consequence is mental instability. Even if you happen to have gone through abuse, it still hurts. It still punches you, even years down the line. For a fact that you learn not to trust people around you. For instance, if a guy did that to you, you learn not to trust guys. Even if you happen to be in another relationship, even if they just touch you like that, you jump. And you get all scared. And the person asks, what's wrong with you? Because all of that flash comes through your mind. All of that crying, all of that thing that you did at that time, it comes through your mind. So even if a girl did anything to you in an abusive way, you just don't have that trust factor because you think that everybody else is like that. That's the consequence. It just doesn't give you that stability of a person that you're supposed to have. Because by the end of the day, you think everybody else is going to do that to you. By the end of the day, you don't have that trust factor. You become very, very strong. Very strong. You develop a stone cold heart. And you think you can never bring in anything else in. But that's the consequence because you don't see it for a start. So you think, okay, even if I am with this person, I believe that sooner or later they would do it. So you're unable to love, you're unable to give back something else. You're unable to just be in an environment with other people because you all think, okay, probably in the mind right now, sooner or later, 6 months down the line, they'll beat me up. So it's that factor where your heart, you're just unable to be human again. You start being very rude. There's a lot of things that happen. But the key factor is you don't trust people anymore. You develop this sort of just creepy, like I just want to just be myself. I don't want to love, I don't want to give back anything else. Don't talk to me like that, don't do this. But unfortunately, other people say, I'll do it back to somebody else, which is wrong.
Yeah, I believe with what you just explained right now, it goes back to society. That's why we have a lot of hateful speech. People are hating because of those kind of situations that maybe they've gone through that. So like, what do you think, you being an advocate, what do you think is supposed to be done maybe by individuals, or what are we supposed to do? We come out of that kind of a situation maybe earlier on so that it doesn't have a long-term thing on us.
Okay, I love how you just said that it's the hateful speech. Because by the end of the day, again, what comes in must come out. If the abuse came in, it will eventually come out. So this is where you find an environment where you're all smiling, but then the person starts being moody, but the person starts shouting other stuff. Like, okay, what is wrong with this person? Because probably they've been holding it in so much that one day it bursts. It's not their fault. Again, they do not have anywhere that we can talk about it with somebody. They don't have a platform where they can speak to somebody about what they've gone through. They don't have that energy in saying, okay, even if I do talk about this, but at the end of the day, how are people going to see me? So with that factor, I believe that as a person or as a mental health advocate, it is a matter of fact, we start talking about it now. And if you have to leave your relationship, leave now. Notice those red flags. Notice those little things. Leave now, because by the end of the day, when it does happen, trust me, it will leave a huge footprint in your life. And it'll be so hard for you to erase that footprint, because you'll be so hurt and untrustworthy to somebody else to say, okay, this happened to me, it hurt. So it's that factor that even for a guy to come out and talk about that I have been abused, it's that shame. So I think we should remove this mentality where we say, just because you have been abused, that means you're vulnerable. It was your fault. No, it was this, it was that. Let's take away that factor. Maybe other people can come up front and talk about it. Let's remove this whole mentality to say, if a person has been abused, therefore they can't love back. They should. Give them room to do so. Give them room to understand that not everybody is like that. Because that only happened to them. And it was so unfortunate for them. But by the end of the day, it is only them. So even if you have to meet the other person and get both sides of the stories, do so. Talk about it with them. Even help the other person who did it, who initiated it. Even talk to the other person and ask them, how are you doing? What is it exactly that you need from me? And again, don't create that wall of Jericho around you, because they had to go around it so many times. So think about it with you. How many times are you going to go around and break that wall of Jericho?
All right. The conversation is getting exciting, but time is not on our side. So my last question, do you think we need much more awareness, or like what can be done so that we can come to that safe place whereby men, women that are in abusive relationship can come out and feel safe? What do you think should be done?
Okay, I believe that people need to come out now and talk about it. From my organization, Let It Out. It is time to let it out. Stop hiding it. Stop thinking you're going to heal yourself spiritually randomly. It is time for you to come out and speak about it. So let's create platforms for people to come out freely and speak about it without having the shame, without having the abuse, without having any sort of avengers attached to them. Let them freely come out, and eventually, one way or another, other people will be able to help.
Thank you very much, Miss Phyllis Banda.
Thank you, Mercy.
So this was our very first episode of my Tech series here on my YouTube channel, and our guest today was a renowned journalist, the founder of Let It Out Mental Health Awareness Malawi, Miss Phyllis Banda. Thank you for honoring the invite to be on my very first episode.
Thank you so much, Mercy.
And thank you all guys, everyone who is watching from all over the world. Thank you for being right where you were, and please make sure you subscribe, putting those comments coming in, and don't forget to like. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.